new gymnasium would be 3,870 square feet, would be a full-size gymnasium. The special ed rooms and resource rooms are approximately 1,000 square feet, and the new ones would total 3,500 square feet. So it's not just about renovating the existing space, it's about adding a lot of space that's absolutely necessary to the operation of the Batchelder School. The specifications that I just read to you for the new building have been reviewed by the school committee. They fall within the standards as established by the Department of Education, and they have been voted on and approved by the school committee unanimously. In just closing on my part of the presentation, we feel and we are certain that the space that will be provided by the new Batchelder School building will satisfy our elementary school space needs into the immediate future. And that based on enrollment projections and based on the enrollment that we have, that building, along with the existing Hood and Middle School building and the modulars that are in place already at the Hood and Middle School, will provide adequate space of between 10 and 11 sections per grade into the immediate future. Before we get into questions on the overall project, I'm going to ask Jonathan DeSimone to come up and talk to you about the cost of this project and how we propose that it be financed.
Good evening, John DeSimone, 4 Fox Run Lane, Chairman of the North Carolina Elementary School Building Committee. We're going to just pull up the handout. If you have the one-page handout that was at the door this evening, I really just want to orient you to a couple of things on that sheet. Just quickly on the project details, we did talk about this being a 75,000 square foot project. About 55,000 square feet is new construction. The anticipated construction timeline is to break ground sometime during 2004, after school would be out, and to complete it during the 2005-2006 school year. So under 2 years, hopefully something like 16 to 18 months would be the time frame. Let me talk about project costs for a second. The total cost is $15.7 million. There are 3 key pieces to think about in that 15.7. The first piece is the basic construction. So this is the walls, this is the new roof, this is the new HVAC system. That's $12.4 million of cost, any work on the site, etc. In addition, it is standard at this phase of construction to carry a contingency, because there are things that can come up that you don't realize at the time that you're actually designing the building. We are carrying a construction contingency of approximately 10%, or $1.2 million. Now, I do want to draw a distinction between that $1.2 million and the $600,000 that Charlie Hay referred to earlier as the design allowance, because that estimate of $12.4 million, it's the estimator's best guess at the sort of equipment and fixtures and lights and windows that they think we'll use in this building. At this point, we haven't specified the exact windows or doors that we actually would use. And so they provide a little bit of allowance that allows you to tailor the building to the specific issues and needs of the community. So that $600,000 of design allowance, again, standard at this phase of construction, is included in the $12.4 million of base construction. Last part to talk about are these soft costs. What are soft costs? Soft costs are things like professional fees. There's some additional furniture, technology, furnishings, the construction management, a very key part of having a professional on the site at all times to manage the construction. So those run about $2.1 million. There's been a question about relocation, and I think the superintendent's going to talk to you more about the relocation plan. How is relocation budgeted for in the number that's before you? In the base construction budget of $12.4 million and in some of the soft costs, there is approximately $100,000 that is directly related to relocation. We've got to pull the modulars off of that site to do construction on that site. We need some storage trailers for the things that will need to go in storage, and we need to move some of the equipment to where it will be used during the time of construction. That's about $100,000. The superintendent's estimate of relocation is a range right now, as the plan is being looked at. I believe it is approximately $300,000 to about $500,000 in total estimated cost. So the difference between what relocation ends up actually costing, so $300,000 to $500,000, less the $100,000 that's already baked into the hard numbers here, that difference could be as little as $200,000 and as much as $400,000 will come out of the $1.2 million of construction contingency. So just so you know where all the numbers are and moving around, we decided to carry the relocation costs, given their magnitude, out of the contingency. We feel this is an acceptable approach because, as we discussed with the architect, we carried 10% on this project. Architect actually initially advised us to carry 7.5%. We were a little conservative. We decided we wanted to use 10. On further review, we're basically using the 2.5%, or about $300,000, to fund relocation. Numbers get a little bit tricky. Hopefully that clarifies it somewhat, but I'm happy to answer more questions on that. You've got a table of options here. Let me explain it very quickly. Right now, the town can bond a project like this over 20 years. And right now, the interest rates for a project of this sort are 4.5%. So if you look at the first column on your sheet, 4.5% interest in 20 years, put that down, that you have 3 sets of rows. The first row tells you the average annual cost for a house that's assessed at $350,000. Believe it or not, that is actually the average assessed cost, roughly, value of a home in North Reading. The second set of rows tell you the cost per 100,000, so you can do the math for your property. And the third set of rows describe the total cost over the entire period of funding. And so that is, in the current way we can finance at the current interest rates. As some of you may know, the town of Reading has actually moved to bond their project over 30 years by a vote of town meeting to request a home rule petition. This is something that could not be done tonight, but could be done in April, and would be the timing would be fine then. And we could, in fact, bond this over a longer period of time. That would be up to town meeting. It's not something you need to think about today. However, to illustrate for you the range of costs that you might be facing under this project, we have looked at slightly higher interest rates, because interest rates could rise, and over a slightly longer time period. So if I could draw your attention to the first set of rows just for a moment, the average annual cost for a $355,000 home basically varies between about $200 and $250 a year, depending upon exactly how we bond it. Now the interest goes up, and this is the same sort of decision that we all face when we pay our mortgages. Do you do a shorter duration where you pay less mortgage but you pay more per month? Or do you do a longer mortgage where you're paying less per month but you end up paying more interest over the life of the mortgage? That's a decision that ultimately town meeting would need to make, and not something that needs to be decided at this instant, because we wouldn't be bonding this money immediately. We'd be basically just borrowing it. We wouldn't go to permanently bond it for at least a year, if not more. So you can see the range of costs here, the interest in principal components, and the total costs as well. So just wanted to draw your attention to those costs, and we can go through that in more detail. At this point, I'd like to turn it over, I guess, to Jerry Venezia to talk a little bit more about relocation.
Mr. Moderator, we're going to need approximately 3 or 4 more minutes of that.
How many more minutes?
3 or 4.
3 or 4, go ahead.
Okay? I'm going to ask Dr. Troutman to speak on the relocation plan.
Dr. Troutman.
Thank you. When this project commences this summer, there will be a need to relocate between 400 and 450 students from the bachelor school plus the entire staff for the 2 years that are anticipated for this project. This is quite an undertaking. We will be working with the principals and the staff to accomplish this, and it would be my recommendation to set up a transition team that involve parents and working with the administration and the teachers to make this as smooth as possible. Basically, the goals would be to continue to provide a high-quality education that we've come to be very proud of here in this community, with our students achieving at a very, very high level. And certainly I would not recommend a plan that did not continue to achieve that high-quality education. And secondly, and perhaps most importantly, is to make sure that all of our children continue to be educated in a safe and welcoming environment. The plan, in a nutshell, will be to take the entire bachelor district, and approximately 2/3 of the children, about 200 to 230 students, and their teachers and staff will move to the little school. This is approximately 2 classes for every grade: kindergarten, first, second, third, and fourth. In order to accomplish that, we will need to find at the little school, either through using specialty rooms, the art, music, and computers, plus the available modulars, plus moving the current modulars from the bachelor school to the little school in order to find those rooms. We will be, in using the specialty spaces, we will have art taught on a cart in the classroom. Music will be returned to the stage, And computers will be distributed to the classrooms, and we'll also have to find a way to develop a mobile computer lab. Similarly, about 1/3 of the students from the batch will be moved to the Hood School. The reason for that is that the Hood School right now is a larger school, and I'm trying to even out the total student enrollment between the Hood and the batch. So about 120 students are the equivalent of one classroom per grade, K to 4. I will say that in working with the principals and the staff, that we will continue to maintain the same level of class sizes, so this will not compromise in any way the class sizes in any of these grades. The final piece of this plan will be to move us only the bachelor grade 5 to the middle school. This is approximately 70 to 80 students, approximately 3 to 4 classes over the 2 years, and these students will be located in the middle school. I've already reviewed the room use. I believe, and my administrative team believes, that the rooms will be available if we make this work by adding modular classrooms, by moving the batch mods, and using the specialty rooms that I've described. Lastly, as Mr. DeSimone has mentioned, we have begun the process of costing this out. There are some known costs in terms of moving the bachelor modulars. There will be a need to lease at least 2 other mod classrooms. There are moving costs that are associated both out of the school and back into the school. We will also have to build some temporary partitions in at least one of the modular units at the little school. We have estimated leasing storage trailers. This will be an area that we hope to reduce. There will be a need for additional buses because you're transporting all of those students from the bachelor district. There will be no walkers. I don't anticipate any walkers to either the Hood or Little from the Batch district. And then finally, there's a small contingency plan. This is the relocation plan as we currently conceive it. We understand that it will require a tremendous effort on the part of the staff as well as the parents. And again, that's why we propose putting together a transition plan. I'm going to invite Mr. Venezia to come up and summarize our proposal.
After Mr. Venezia summarizes, I will have an announcement to make concerning some athletic event.
There's a good or bad close.
Why don't you go ahead and do your wrap-up?
1 year ago, at October town meeting, we voted 160 to nothing to appropriate funds to come up with a schematic design for the Batchelder School, for a new Batchelder School. During the last year, the Elementary School Building Committee has worked tirelessly to do that, put an extraordinary amount of time to come up with this design and this plan. I want to introduce them to you today. They're sitting over here, Jane Swart, John DeSimone, Kristen Ellis, Fred Clark, Scott Stimson, and Shep Speed, who's not here. We did what was asked of us, and we came up with this plan. We think it's a very viable plan. It's been 7 long years that we've struggled with the elementary school space issue, back and forth. We've had studies, we've had architects, we've looked at this inside and outside. We believe this is a good plan. There is a cost associated with it, there's no question about it, but we're asking you to support this plan. This is the first step towards us getting this put in place and resolving our elementary school space needs into the immediate future. So I thank you for your consideration.
And now for the bad news. As of about 2 minutes ago, the athletics were ahead 1 to nothing. Any further discussion on the main motion under Article 15? Mr. Wood, please state your name and address, please, sir.
Ryan Wood, 20 Chestnut Street. A couple of questions. Could the cost of moving that granite from the retaining wall to a storage location be factored into the construction overall cost? Those are stones that probably could be used throughout town in other avenues, and historically be served in other ways that would be appropriate. And the question is, does the construction affect, disrupt, or completely demolish the fairly new septic system.
Mr. Venatti?